Hey everybody, my name is Gavin and I love horror. This weekend has been a big weekend for horror fans and some not horror fans, as the latest film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, has been released, and many are questioning, is it a horror film? Yeah, it's directed by Sam Raimi, but does that make it horror by default? Well, after seeing the film last night, I am here to say that 100% Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is a horror movie. Let's get into it. Now, before you smash that dislike button and turn this video off and like, that's not horror, it's a big budget superhero movie, that can't be horror, hear me out here, okay? Hear me out, because Doctor Strange has a lot to offer. I wasn't a huge fan of the first outing, but this new one definitely had me thinking. It has a lot of great elements from classic horror movies, and of course, you've got Sam Raimi, the creator of The Evil Dead, my favorite horror movie of all time, back behind the camera of a big budget superhero movie, and this time out, you can see that all he's learned over his years of directing the Spider-Man movies, then going back to films like Drag Me to Hell. This movie has everything if you are a fan of superhero movies or if you are a fan of horror. Before you can consider it a horror movie though, you do have to go in and kind of throw out all that preconceived notion of what you have a horror movie to be. Because in the horror fandom, there's a lot of gatekeeping of, well, that's not really horror. That's not a horror movie. Oh, it's PG. That can't be horror. It's not a hard R with guts and gore flying everywhere. You have to let those go and realize that horror sometimes evolves and takes shape in different forms. And this is the same argument that people make against films like The Babadook, where they're like, this is elevated horror. This doesn't scare me. Where's the man in the mask killing everybody? That is a horror movie as well. But getting back to Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, this movie has so many horror elements, including you've got jump scares. Jump scares alone do not mean that a movie is a horror. I mean, some sitcoms and things do jump scares occasionally, but the jump scares here are built up, and when the jump scares do happen, they are genuinely terrifying. Without going into, actually, let's go ahead, full spoilers for this entire movie, because I feel like if we tiptoe around too much, we're not gonna get our point across. I'm not gonna get my point across, rather. The way they portray Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch, in this movie is genuinely terrifying. This is a character that has been through such extreme loss, losing vision during the Infinity Saga. You also had her taking over an entire town and putting them under a spell to relive sitcoms, and she thought she brought back her dead boyfriend Vision, and just enslaving people to live out her fantasies and be like her puppets. That's some dark stuff. At the end of WandaVision, of course, you saw her reading the Darkhold and just getting all that bad juju into her mind. And that's kind of where this movie picks up. This is a woman who has lost everything. She lost her children that she manifested, so she will do anything to get back to those children. There's one scene towards the end of the movie when Doctor Strange and America Chavez are running from the Scarlet Witch, and they're under a river in like a glass door bunker situation, and you know she's on the other side of the door, and you're just waiting for it, and the amazing score by Danny Elfman builds and builds and builds until finally Wanda just pops out of nowhere, eyes glowing red, looking demonic. And it is one of the most effective scares in the entire movie, because this is a woman who's lost everything and will kill or do anything to get what she wants back. This movie is also a lot more violent than other Marvel Cinematic Universe films, which many people were questioning how it ever got a PG-13 rating to begin with. You've got people getting shredded, you've got somebody getting cut in half with a Captain America shield, which was it's not in all the gory detail, but it gets the point across. You know, somebody just got cut in half. Just seeing superheroes get killed in general, even if they are different multiverse versions, it's pretty scary to see. There's another effective jump scare when Professor Xavier is trying to free the Wanda that our universe's Wanda has dreamwalked into, trying to get her out, trying to free her. And Wanda, again, jump scares behind him and snaps his neck. It is crazy to see how far we've come in Marvel movies, where we can now just see Professor Xavier get his neck snapped. And that it is effective, and it stays with you for a while. You also have elements of elevated horror. Like I mentioned earlier, how Wanda has lost everything, how her grief is driving all of this. The way the movie ends with her getting transported to one of these universes where she could be with her kids, and her kids being terrified of her because she's hurting their mother, the multiverse version of her that has these kids. That is some of the most psychologically horrific thing that you could think of. Imagine if you didn't have your kids and you were trying to find them, and then you get into a universe where you're fighting yourself and trying to like get your kids back, but you're also scaring your kids. It's messed up. And then finally, you have the very on the nose, very Sam Raimi inclusion of zombies, the undead, etc., where Doctor Strange has to actually possess a dead version of himself, and there's like all these ghouls trying to get him. And the ghouls, I swear, were the same voices of the Deadites in Army of Darkness. You can definitely tell that ghost spooky influence that Sam Raimi got making those movies almost 30 years ago, that it's so much fun. And I think that's something too that people can't really equate to horror. They feel like horror has to be just balls to the wall, nonstop, scare, traumatizing, everything. But horror movies can be fun. Horror movies can be superhero movies. Doctor Strange is a horror movie, but it's also a very fun movie. And I'm so glad they got somebody like Sam Raimi to direct it, because he brings that element of horror. He brings that element of fun, and he just knows how to make a good movie. Doctor Strange was a character that I felt worked better as a sidekick in the Spider-Man movies, in the Avengers movies. I really didn't care for his first outing, like I said earlier, but Multiverse of Madness is just a great Marvel movie that really expands what the Marvel Cinematic Universe can include. And in this case, it's horror. It'll be interesting to see how far they take this in the upcoming Blade movie that's coming out with Mahershala Ali, that's due out eventually. So it'll be interesting to see how far horror they go with that. It is gonna be PG-13, it's not gonna be R like many people were speculating about. I think it'll be fine. I don't think that's gonna be a huge deal. But if they can get somebody who is good at directing PG-13 horror and knows how to like walk up right to that line of getting that R and still being able to scare us and still make a good movie, I think it's going to be a really good outing for everybody's favorite vampire hunter. Overall, there is a lot that I enjoyed in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I think it's great. I don't think it's not gonna win any Fangoria awards. Like, let's not kid ourselves there. But to just outright dismiss it as a horror movie, I think that's doing it a disservice, and a disservice to what Sam Raimi was trying to do, because he has gone on record saying he was trying to make a Marvel horror movie. And in my eyes, I definitely think he succeeded. You don't have to be a Serbian film to be considered horror. You don't have to be Michael Myers. You don't have to be The Exorcist. You can be a Marvel movie and still be horror. I'm afraid to ask this, but what do you think? Am I completely off base here? Does it have to be a hard R, Rob Zombie swearing every 5 minutes to be considered horror? Do you have to have more gore, more ghosts? What do you gotta do to be horror? Or do you agree with me? Do you think that Doctor Strange is a horror movie like I do? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel, leave a like, and of course, comment. Let me know, is Doctor Strange 2 a horror movie, or am I just, I don't know, am I just too mainstream now? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay weird.